pave the street, and when, because my street was already in disrepair. There was lots of heavy equipment sitting on the street from the time that that property at 892 was being built, which caused more potholes, which again, my street is old, was already in disrepair. That didn't help, and now this situation isn't helping. And also, I'm aware that some of our township employees were injured while they were working on that new project in front of my property, and it was pretty significant injuries. So now we're short-staffed. We have an issue with this road with stones all over the place. It wasn't paved. And the actual issue is still not being addressed. So I know too that we had HRG come out and do a survey. For whatever reason, the survey was done incorrectly and it had to be redone. So I'd like to know a time frame on when the actual driveway issue is going to be addressed. And I also have a question as to why HRG was used over Dawood. So I don't know if that'll be a question that you can answer, Member Varner, or if the solicitor can answer that. And for the public, I think it's important to know how much money the township has spent so far on correcting these issues that were caused by a builder that did not follow their building and codes permit. So I don't know if anyone has any answers right now, or.
Well, I can answer your question on the HRG versus Dawood. It's a stormwater issue, and we have a stormwater engineer.
It's also a building and codes issue because the building permit wasn't followed.
But the remediation, the fix that is needed is stormwater related. And so we used a stormwater engineer for that purpose.
I guess that makes sense, but my concern is they didn't use the correct landmarks, and now the survey had to be redone. So are we paying for that, or are they doing that at no cost?
They did not use the correct landmarks. They're surveyors, and they're professionals, and they're going with the landmarks. Use the correct landmarks. They're doing their job, and they have determined, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Webb on the current status, but I can assure you it's not being done incorrectly. There's a plan to move forward, not move backwards. Mr. Webb.
So the surveying end of it, they originally went out to survey what was there to determine if it was a 20-foot right-of-way, 40-foot right-of-way. The sewer authority has a 20-foot right-of-way, and then they had to go back to when the original development was laid out by Mr. Yost back in, I think it was like 1918 or 1920, somewhere around there. They could never find a definitive right-of-way width. So the original boundaries that they had put in, once they put them in and tried to figure out, is it 20 or is it 40, knowing where it's going to end up, they had to pull the pins back out because you're correct, they were not right. So they needed to get a little bit further into this. So they had to go measure neighboring streets, neighboring properties, basically survey them as well. And when we were out there on Monday, came up with the center line of the 40-foot right-of-way. That was what we were out there to determine on Monday.
Okay. Do we have a time frame as far as when that project will move forward? Because that is and continues to be the issue, that driveway that's directing the water down. I mean, me personally, I think it probably would have made more sense to do that part first before doing the drain in front of my home, but I understand the need to try to do something. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that Public Works did. But it's unfortunate that there's the main issue still not addressed. And now there's a couple other ones that we have to work on.
Well, it's my understanding that the drain that was placed in front of the homes is working quite well. Is that correct, Mr. Webb?
I have not heard of any problems with those.
Okay. So,
the drain worked
nonetheless,
they're
well. Two separate.
The drain that was there worked just fine.
Well, if it worked, there wouldn't have been flooding.
No, the reason there was flooding was because a driveway was put in a right-of-way where water used to flow down it, and that's what caused the flooding. The issue has always been up at the 892 property.
Commissioner
Ellis, there's no need to bang the gavel. I think that's
I'll determine if there's a need to bang the gavel.
There's no need to bang the gavel.
That's something for me to determine.
So, no,
I'm trying to speak.
And
So if you could let me speak.
I am a
would-
resident of Swatara Township. I'm speaking as a resident of Swatara Township. I don't appreciate you attempting to cut me off when I'm speaking.
He is the chair of the
I
authority.
don't appreciate it. So, Member Zubek, you were speaking.
No,
Could you
I would like
continue?
to speak. Was your question answered about the survey?
No.
Is there anything else to answer?
But my question wasn't about the survey at that time. My
Mr.
question
Webb
is,
just explained it.
can I finish? My question was
finish.
in regards to, could you stop talking, please? I would appreciate
I
that.
will.
Thank you. My question was in regards to when the actual issue that has to do with 892 is going to be addressed. That's the question at hand. That's been the question at hand. It's been the question at hand since July of 2022.
We're addressing the issue.
Exactly.
So when is that going to be addressed?
We're addressing the issue now. The issue is being addressed now, Commissioner.
When is
Now,
the
I would like
project?
to ask
I think we'll
The
get an
permit
update
for
on
this
that a little
project
bit
was
later in the meeting.
issued in 2021 under you, your father, and the majority
All of what you're
board.
saying is
So
irrelevant.
for you to
In
allow
July
a
of
permit to go through,
2022,
and we're cleaning
there
up your
was
mess, we're working as
Information
expeditiously
presented
as
to this
possible
board
to clean
stating
up your
that that
mess.
building project was not
Chairman,
completed.
We're working as
to what
expeditiously
was
as
listed on the
possible to clean up your
Please.
mess.
this
Can we all,
as a member of this board, I just request, one person don't talk over each other.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're doing it.
Oh,
Someone's answering your questions
Mhm.
and you keep talking over them. So please, respectfully asking you, please stop that.
I appreciate that, and I would appreciate it if the other members followed that as well. And I would like an answer to my question.
So please,
When, can I finish?
Mhm.
When is the property, the issue with 892 going to be addressed? That's my question.
I think it's being addressed, and we're going to get an update on it shortly, probably under the Stormwater Monthly Report. So.
Okay, that was only the question. There was no need for any animosity or any of
we
that. That
answered
was
your
my
question.
question.
We
No,
answered
that
your
was my
in
question, and
5 different
Thank you,
variations,
Member Bonner,
Commissioner.
for answering my question. I
We did
appreciate
answer
that.
your question.
So,
Is there anything else?
yes, I would like to request maybe at the next stormwater meeting, because I know you're not going to have the answer right now, if we could compile a list of how much this has been spent on this property. I think that's important for the residents to know, because again, this is an issue where a builder did not follow their plan that was submitted to the board, and now the taxpayers are footing the bill for fixing it. So that's something that I would like to see presented next month.
Thank you for your comments.
Let me make sure I got everything. But yeah, I think that's it.
I-
Thank you.
I'd request to just add one thing since my name was put on this. I'm not aware of any stormwater permits issued in 21 when I was on the board.
There were
This is a
none.
project that I didn't know anything about. I think what you're saying is the builder possibly submitted the plan in 21 and then it was built in 22. So I don't think
Permit
that
was
had,
issued in 2021.
so there's a
There is no
stormwater
stormwater
permit for this
permit.
property?
There was a permit issued in 2021.
Building and codes, there was no stormwater permit because the original plan that was submitted to the board or to building and codes said that it was going to have under 1,000 square feet of impervious surface. Once they did the paving, it was 1,300 feet, not under 1,000. So that's where the issue came in. They did not follow their building and codes plan that was submitted to the township.
Okay, well, you should have addressed it.
And I
It
just want
happened in
to,
2022. I'm not on this board. It was brought to the attention.
You were
I'm not
on
on
the
this,
board.
I'm not on the
You were on the board in
stormwater board.
2021.
If we could,
I'm not on the
again,
stormwater board.
stop the back and forth.
Thank you.
yeah, and I'd like to see that permit. I didn't know it existed. It's the
Right.
First I heard it tonight. So I'd like to see the 2021 stormwater permit issued for 892. Maybe that'll clear up.
There was no stormwater permit, there was a building permit issued.
Correct, and the building permit wasn't followed, so there are violations. And the township is paying the cost to fix the violations. So I don't think that that's fair. I think that it should be the builder. Because now what's happened is the property owner has inherited this problem, and he is just an innocent bystander. He bought a property that had issues, and we knew before the property was sold that there were issues. So
Well,
that's also
I
a
think
concern.
we're
Thank you
working
for
to
your
address the problems, Commissioner Ellis. There's nobody on here that's sitting there doing nothing, not trying to address the problems.
At no point tonight did I say that, but I do want to
But your
impress,
insinuations have
please
been
stop
there.
speaking over me. I do want to impress upon this board again that the homeowner at 902 3rd Avenue has had their home flood 6 times since this building, since this property was built. I think if any of you had your home flood 6 times over the course of almost a year, you would have an issue with it and you would want it to be addressed as soon as possible. So that's why I'm speaking here tonight on behalf of myself and Mrs. Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other visitors' requests or comments? Seeing none, consideration of minutes from the May 10th, 2023 meeting. If anybody has a motion, I'll take it when ready.
Motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Any negative votes? Seeing none, motion passes. Stormwater monthly report. Mr. Webb?
Good evening, commissioners, those in attendance and those streaming from the comfort of your own home. Tonight is the May 2023 monthly report for stormwater. As you can see, I'm much more beautiful than Kevin Trask is. He got a vacation, so I get the pinch hit for him. Staff has submitted the full grant proposal with the help of HRG, provided by the Fish and Wildlife, and in partnership with the EPA. The proposal was completed or submitted on April 20th. We obtained dozens of signatures from local residents in support of it. Had 2 letters of support from Paxton Borough and Tri-County Regional Planning. Staff met with HRG and Fish and Boat, the Army Corps engineers, and DEP about the restoration project. Discussed the feasibility of land studies versus the PAFB design idea. At this time, we've moved forward and approved and permitted the land studies design, which was the original part of the original plan. As far as May activities, completed our required BMP inspections. So far this year, we've completed 179. Staff created and deployed an inlet program to better document and repair inlet problems that we have. And we continued televising stormwater infrastructure as able. Inlet repairs, third need, would you like me to discuss that and answer any questions?
Which one, as far as?
Third update for Third and Union?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we talked about the survey issue. Hold on, let me get. We talked about the survey issues. After we had the original meeting last month, the plan was to start with the survey, then we were going to proceed to the legal aspect of it. And once that was completed and everything was in place and all parties had signed and executed, we were going to move to the construction phase. We are currently awaiting back the official survey from HRG that can then go to Solicitor Hall's office. I'm sure that they're well aware of it and preparing the documentation that can then go to both property owners as well as the township to be fully executed, signed, and then we can complete the rest of the project. Commissioner Ellis, as far as your questions, the street washing out, I'll have that checked tomorrow. I kind of thought that might happen. It does need stone, and we are going to pave it. I want it to settle first so that if we pave it right after we put that stone in a couple of years, I don't want it to dip. So we got to work on that. And I'll check the other stuff at your driveway and the inlet with the curb. We'll look into that. Any other questions regarding Third and Union?
I do. Number one, I appreciate the information being sent to the mills. I don't even know what the information, but they had asked for information. So this is the first I heard that. I didn't know that had happened. And then the other thing, unless I missed an email, I didn't know there was any issue with the survey. Oh, I'm sorry. Number one, thanks for getting the information or some information to the mills that I heard about tonight. And I'm not saying that I needed to know, but I was in on the email chain when it was requested, so I didn't see that it was sent, unless I could have missed it, but I didn't see that. But I'm glad that happened. And then the other thing is on the survey, I didn't know there was any issue. So is that something that I also missed, or is that something I didn't need to know?
I mean, I don't know if it was an email or not, but I
Okay.
knew it was going to be an update tonight
Okay.
on the situation in its entirety. So, I mean, yeah.
But that is correctable. I mean, they were, I saw the day they were there and they put some markers in. So, I mean, ultimately they're going to get the right markers. That's what we're saying. Like, they did something, so it's just not done yet. Okay.
That's what it
I didn't know
sounds
either of
like,
those. And then on what Todd's saying here, that's what I was going to say. And that relates to if you look at the pictures that I had asked, and I don't know what happened there. There were 5 pictures in that email. I think they were too big, so they didn't go through. But that's what I was trying to show in the picture that shows the back end of the white car. And my concern, Todd, is I get what you're saying about not filling it in too soon, but you can see what Commissioner Ellis was talking about. The back side right there has a gap. So it looks like that storm drain might be shifting. And then if you look down in that storm drain, that shift might account for the inch or two of water that she was speaking about, because it's not that way on the other side. The other side's flush. So if you're coming back, I think
We are coming back to pave, and that'll be addressed
Yeah.
when we pave and when it gets sealed.
so when it's sealed, that'll cover the gap. Because you
Absolutely.
can see the marks on the curb where the previous macadam was peeled away. So I think if you just go back to that height, then everything comes down fresh macadam and drops in the drain. So that's what I was putting on there. And it wasn't necessarily a complaint. It was just for information that it happened about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know how long it had to settle. My concern was that back side. I'm assuming that's like a box that's dropped in there.
Correct.
Okay, so it looks to me that if you do the stones on the back between the curb and that box, if that's filled in and sealed, it'll stop the box from tilting. So, okay. And then, I'll just go over the other, I just wanted to show the neighbor at the 892 was pointing out the first picture, which is the erosion on his, and that'll be dealt with when the Union Street part of this is addressed. And I do agree with, Commissioner Ellis, that if you could go in order and you had all the time to do it, addressing the top of the hill may have made it so that the bottom didn't have to be done. But that drain there had already caved in one other time on one side. So, I understand that part, but until we fix the top of the hill, I'm not sure that that's going to address it. And that's pretty much all I was saying. And just so everybody knows, I get asked about this, so I'd rather have the pictures and the conversation, here, and then somebody can watch it later. It's not necessarily that I am for or against or necessarily questioning. It's just raising the issues. But just the final point I want to make on that, Todd, is I think it's very noticeable with the tree trimming that the township did around there on Union and 3rd Avenue, and then the removal of the gigantic tree in front of the mills, and then some of the trimming that Mr. Serini, probably say this wrong, but Kakamanu, he had some tree trimming done. So now a lot of what was blocking the drain isn't there. So I think once it's resolved, it's not going to block those 2 inlets like happened in the past. So I appreciate the work from Public Works, around there and on this issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Mr. Wood?
Upcoming tasks, our permit cycle for stormwater ends June 30th. We have an annual report that we have to submit. That'll be submitted by September 30th. We have a new BMP inspection program that we're working on. It'll help residents ensure that on-site stormwater management is operating as expected, aiding in their efforts, rather than going out and telling people, you did this wrong, go out and help them try and help them with their problem, basically. Stormwater staff is now working with finance. The bills went out, stormwater bills went out on June 7th. Ongoing tasks, HRG continues to review and complete stormwater inspections for land development plans. Staff has continued meetings with PennDOT regarding the Swint Stream Restoration Project, as well as the 83 project. Highland Street stormwater pipe relocation and connectivity. We've discovered some more issues with that downstream, and we're working on a potential solution. Project will also install a walkway connecting the Bishop Track with Handshoe Street. HRG survey team measured all stormwater asset elevations. Dahlwood and HRG are pursuing grant opportunities for funding for this. And staff is approached by Central Dauphin School District to discuss the plans and timeline for the pipe relocation and the walkway. Rupp Hill Road has finished its design phase, so we have that much done, and we're still looking at the last quarter of this year for the vac truck delivery.
Awesome,
That's
thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Webb? All right, you're off the hook. Thank you. Manager's report. Kim, do we have anything for a manager's report?
No manager's report, although I don't know if Ms. Brzezinski might have a brief financial report.
Yes, I do. And I was going to just mention what Todd said, that the stormwater bills went out on June 7th. I have the April and May stormwater financial reports, but for the sake of time, if you don't mind, I'll just read the one ending May 31st. The beginning balance is $14,730.33. We received $5,508.56. We dispersed $116 with an ending balance on May 31st of $20,122.89.
Thank you. Anything else?
I have a question on that. The 5508 received, is that all 2023?
That some of them are prepaid for 2023, and then some of them are delinquent from prior years.
Okay, I had reached out to you on the one from the residents. Did you get any more information?
Yeah, we put them in contact with Portnoy.
Okay, but their banking records show that they had that sent on the 1st, and it was taken from their account on the 11th. Is that, if they're going to Portnoy, it doesn't necessarily have to the dates, but if there's a problem on their end, will that take care of it,
Yeah.
or do they still have to go?
Portnoy will reach out to us then directly.
Okay, so,
So they'll provide the same documents to them. Portnoy will try to reconcile with them, and then they'll reach out to us. Like, we can't talk to the customer directly.
right, but you're saying that you took money from customers, and in this case, they sent money. Like, do we know?
I don't know if I can talk about it on.
Okay, no, I don't, if it's
Okay.
personal to them,
Right,
but, they're waiting, I told them to give me to tonight
yeah,
for a follow-up, and my follow-up was just gonna be as, them as a constituent asking me a question. Since I'm not saying the name of the address,
Right.
they, for some reason, they paid $91.
yeah.
They would have owed 66 if
They-
it was 1 year. If it was more than 1 year, I don't,
It was not received by us.
okay.
Yeah, I can talk to you after this about.
Okay, yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
get back to them tonight, and
Mhm.
just to be clear, if they missed it and they had to pay Portnoy, it doubles it. I don't know if anybody has seen these, but there's a $40 fee, a $25, it went to $137.50. And these people are not, they realize they missed a bill, and they're not upset if they have to pay that, but they just feel like they got in
Mhm.
ahead, and if there's a way to fix it, and I'll take whatever advice you give me
Okay,
privately.
right,
But I just wanted to make sure, since I sent it to you, either you or I follow up
Mhm.
with that resident.
yes. And Portnoy, they do have schedule of fees that was discussed whenever they came. I think the first letter they get is just reach out and contact us, no additional fees added. And then as, it goes on from there. I'm not sure exactly of their process.
I can
but-
speak to the process.
Sure.
And for the record, this board voted unanimously to move forward with Portnoy. But the process is basically, so in 2021, Stormwater Authority billed for fees and charged 10% penalty and sent past due notices after 60 days. Sent the second past due notice to all attempt collecting unpaid balances for all years. 2022, the Stormwater Authority billed for fees, charged 10% penalty and sent past due notices after 60 days showing unpaid balances. And this is all what was discussed that we had requested of them to ensure that residents had enough time to be able to be brought up to date before they would be charged anything in the future for any future unpaid balances. So 60 days showing unpaid balances. Then we contracted with Portnoy Law Associates to collect past due balances. We informed all past due balances that if balance remains, they would be turned over to collections by Portnoy. Another notice gave unpaid balances 60 days additional time to pay balances before it was sent to the collection. So that was the second notice. A second notice was sent to allow 60 days to pay balances before sent to collections. They were informed that once sent to collections, they would have to pay Portnoy the unpaid balances. All unpaid balances were then sent to Portnoy for collection for 2023. 2023 bills were sent for the current year amount. Those with prior year balances were informed this year that they would have to be paid to Portnoy if there's any unpaid balances. And they were given until August 1st, 2023 to pay 2023 fees before 10% penalty would be charged and past due notice will be sent, given additional 30 days to pay current 2023 bills. So that's our current process.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that I think this one circumstance that we're talking about is in a different area because they paid the payment electronically or they believe they did and it was taken out of their account. The process started on May 1st and then it showed them it was paid on May 11th. And then we just heard tonight that the bill was sent June 7th. So I think that's why they came in to try to rectify it. So, I mean,
Well, I can answer to that because I had also inquired after I realized you had sent an email, and I think I can answer to the mechanism used to make the payment was somewhat of an unorthodox payment method that was not directly to the township. And so if the township doesn't have the payment, we can't control the method that people use to make a payment. But if the payment actually never got to the township, then I'm not really sure what you're asking us to do.
I'm not asking, that's the first that I heard that. That's probably what
Yeah.
he was going to tell me, but she didn't tell me. And that's fine. Then that person can recoup the money that they
I can't
sent.
give any more specifics, but I think
Yeah,
I
I-
tried to generalize
Yeah.
that it was a somewhat unorthodox payment method.
I get that. And the only reason I'm bringing it up tonight is that means they have a payment out there that they thought paid this bill. If it didn't and we didn't get it, they have an opportunity to get it back and use that money to pay Portnoy.
They have to take
Yeah.
that up.
Yes, that's the
with
first I
Portnoy.
heard that. I actually suspected that and sent that back to a person to check on it.
Yeah.
And then I told them that I would ask tonight. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, and I think any further is going to have to probably be worked out directly with them and either you, Brittany, or Portnoy, right? Is that correct?
and just to be clear on that is what we sent on the bill, the electronic way to pay, is that new for 23?
No.
Okay, so I think that's what I had used last year on March 30th because I had a bill payer set up. And when the bill came out later, I didn't, you sent my check back.
Okay.
So it works
Yeah.
both ways. There was a little bit of confusion, but I think Commissioner Zubek just gave me the answer that I needed, that the money that these people paid would still be available to them because it never went to what they thought they paid.
We don't know.
Yeah, we
No,
don't.
they reached out with a follow-up saying that if it didn't pay this bill, they could get it back and deal with Portnoy. So that's all I want to do, just clear it up tonight for the residents. So,
Thank you.
Okay, good.
thank you.
Thank you. Members requested comments. Member Connolly.
I feel bad that, and again, I don't want to, I'm not going to put names or violate HIPAA, but I understand we did have two people that were injured in some way working on 3rd Street. So hopefully they will heal and return quickly. And as far as the, sending the photos to have up here, that was just more or less for the record. So I was very pleased when I came in and looked through my packet and saw that the pictures were printed. So that's just so that everybody has the the same information. And if you see, just real quick to go over them, one's the erosion at the 892 coming off of the driveway. The other one was basically me taking a picture of the project with all the equipment we have there that's basically caused by a developer who, has yet to actually correct the issue on their property. And I understand that we're working on it and things take time. And then in the bottom corner, you see that we upgraded the, Kevin, or Todd will tell me, we upgraded a 12-inch pipe to an 18 across the street, and then it's still a 12 at the other storm drain back to the stream and the wetlands. So, we have an upgrade on 2 drains downstream while we're waiting for the correction upstream. And then the last picture kind of shows a lot of what Commissioner Ellis said about, the rocks in the street and possibly the storm drain tilting. And Mr. Webb had said that's something that they were going to follow up on after some time to let it settle. So I think once that's corrected, you're going to have some more happy neighbors on the street. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Zubek. Or, I'm sorry, Member Bowder. Let me skip over here. Member Zubek.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Todd and the Public Works Department and our engineers working on this project to continue to move it forward. As far as the injuries, of course, our prayers are with those injured workers who were out there doing the best job that they could. And unfortunately, sometimes with this, injuries happen, but we're certainly praying for them. As far as the continuing of the conversation, I think that I would like to encourage my fellow board members and anyone to address this issue moving forward in a more positive manner. We all want the same outcome for this. And it seems like there's been an awful lot of politicizing of this issue, that we're dealing with a problem with a real resident and, a need for real results in this particular situation. So, I'm done answering the Monday morning quarterback conversation. I think that it's counterproductive for this board or any board to dwell on something when really we have a job to do, and that's to address the issue at hand. And like I've reiterated, when I saw that the legal process is taking a little bit longer, because we've all dealt with governments and we all know that legal processes typically take a lot longer than asking a public works department to go out and address it in a physical manner. We're continuing to do that, to address it on both fronts, both the legal and the physical manner in which that assists us with doubling our, effectiveness and efficiency and getting it done in a more time-efficient manner. So I can assure the residents that we take every single issue seriously. Nobody here can say that they don't care, as I'm sure anybody in the audience cares as well. So I would just like to encourage the members of this board moving forward to try to work together, try to work with people, try not to throw stones, try not to politicize issues, try to move forward in a productive manner for the benefit of the residents in this township, and not your own personal feelings or goals. There's a public service that we provide, and we should continue to conduct ourselves in the public in a serviceable manner. So that's all I have to say for this evening, and thank you everyone for coming out.
Thank you, Member Tuckey.
As soon as this issue was brought to our attention, what I can say for certain is staff got right on top of the issue and worked through it completely. No one was ignored. It's not that anyone doesn't care, because that's not the case at all. So I do appreciate the staff we have. Thanks for everything that you have done and are doing. And I hope everyone has a good evening. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. And I'll just end it with on the Third Avenue issue. It's important to remember that it is an active work zone currently there. The work's currently being done. We all had met, came up with a plan. It's not going to happen overnight. There's work being done there now. We're in the process of trying and attempting and doing. And again, to say that we haven't been addressing it or haven't been doing anything simply is not true. I think we need to give it some time as well, and let the work there be completed so we can see if the plan that we came up with and developed is going to work and solve the issue. So that's what I'd like to say about that. If no one has anything else, motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second?
Motion a second, meeting adjourned.
Just do tomorrow, yeah. I can go down in the morning, get the papers and catch up to you in the morning, you around? Okay, because I'm doing it for me, Shayla, and did you get the pictures?
I do.
Oh, there's one on the back. Oh, that was just.
Well, if someone complains, well, consider it.
Yeah. We can get it filled out real quick and get it. We can get it filled out really quickly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah, we'll start our regular meeting. And then when we're on that issue, it'll be 17.
I'm not sure what comments
It's
you're
totally
referring to.
respectful comments.
I'm not sure what comments you're referring to.
What's that?
Nothing negative was said.
I'm sorry, I don't know what I could possibly say.
Nothing you can say.
Now,
Apparently bending over backwards, doing everything you can for someone.
Yes, I can grab it. Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. I grabbed it.
it's all games. Some people, it's not.
I don't even care.
No, I know, it's true.
How are you? Good. Going good. Be better on Saturday. Leaving to go to Busch Gardens in Virginia. So nice to not be here.
Didn't say anything wrong.
Or can I just move closer to it after that?
Done 100% the right way, straight through the whole project.
Okay, that's fine.
So there's nothing.
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm gonna just leave it and I think I can hear, so.
Yeah. You're here. I'm glad to see you. Yep. Right.
Oh, boy.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, regular meeting 2, Swatara Township Board of Commissioners, June 14th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ellis,
Here.
Commissioner Bowder,
Here.
President Zubek,
Here?
Commissioner Tuckey,
Here,
Commissioner Varner,
Here.
President Zubek, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I would like to announce that we did not have an executive session this evening prior to this meeting. Moving on to item number 6, awards presentation by Director of Public Safety Ryder.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, residents and guests of Swatara Township. At this time, I'd like to present some awards that were earned by officers in our police department. We're going to start off with, we also have some citizens awards here this evening, so it'll be a nice presentation. The first award is the Award of Merit. On November 20th, 2022, Patrolman Anthony Glass was dispatched to the Sheraton Hotel on Lindell Road for a report of possible human trafficking. Officer Glass made contact with a male and female who were subjects of the complaint. Officer Glass was able to determine trafficking was not a factor, but did observe indicators of drug abuse. Subsequent search warrant was executed on the room, locating illegal drugs, a large cache of electronics, and credit cards. With this information, Detective Sergeant Ballou later conducted a follow-up investigation, which revealed the credit cards to be the proceeds of numerous fraudulent unemployment compensation claims. The male was charged with 9 counts of forgery, 9 counts of access device fraud, and 9 counts of theft by deception. The teamwork and thorough investigation by Officer Glass and Detective Sergeant Ballou resulted in a significant prosecution. Their actions reflect great credit upon themselves, the Swatara Township Police Department, and we're in the highest traditions of American law enforcement. So I'd like to have Officer Glass, and I don't think Sergeant Ballou is here, but come forward. Good job. Thank you.
Whatever you want.
We'll all get our extras. At this time, I'd like to present a life-saving award to A Platoon. On Thursday, March 9th, 2023, Swatara police officers were dispatched to a report of a suicidal male. It was reported that the male departed his residence after sending his wife a text message saying that he intended to commit suicide. After meeting with the family, officers learned that the male was in the military and having some issues and was in the woods just north of the residence, along with a phone ping placing him within this range. Officers of A Platoon checked the area by vehicle and on foot, and the male was located north of Christie Lane. He was seated against a tree, and he was getting ready to take the action that he said he was going to do. Officers assisted the male out of the woods, where he is transported by ambulance to the Hershey Medical Center for treatment. Their actions reflect great credit upon themselves, the Swatara Township Police Department, and we're in the highest tradition of American law enforcement. I'd like to give the life-saving award to Sergeant Scott Neal, Patrolman Dan Neve, Patrolman Kevin Porter, Corporal Eric Moyer, Patrolman Rebecca Holstein, Patrolman Tyler Margison, and Patrolman Chris Jones. You guys can come forward. This platoon was working today. We had an incident in the township with a vicious dog that attacked a couple people. And this group of officers doesn't know the word give up. It's good that we have them on our side. They're tenacious and great officers.
On three, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, thank you so much. Really?
For this next award, I'd like to ask Barbara Barksdale to come up and stand here with me, if she can. I think I saw her come in. Oh, there she is. You didn't know I was calling you up here, but you're gonna smile and come on up here. I know you're gonna be happy. This is our Civilian Support Award. This award goes to Bryce Kraling, the son of Lieutenant Dennis Kraling. I've had the pleasure of watching Bryce Kraling grow up from a young boy into a tremendous young man. Bryce is a teenage son of Swatara Township Police Department's Lieutenant Dennis Kraling, like I just said. From an early age, Lieutenant Kraling would bring Bryce to the Swatara Township community events where he would assist the department by volunteering for different tasks. Bryce unselfishly and without complaint agreed to wear the very uncomfortable McGruff the Crime Dog suit on many occasions, and I always observed him to be engaging, polite, and responsive to all the children that he interacted with. Most recently, Bryce volunteered an extensive amount of time in Swatara Township at the Midland Cemetery, where he completed his Eagle Scout project by installing and repairing fencing along Cole Alley. Midland Cemetery caretaker Barbara Barksdale told me that Bryce also assisted with numerous cleaning details, and he built 4 benches to sit at a picnic table in the cemetery. Barbara stated that during his Eagle Scout project, Bryce continually met with her on his own like a young man should. In a time where we would hear that people no longer volunteer, Bryce has shown a servant's heart and a love for his community and Swatara Township. Congratulations, Bryce. Well earned. Bryce is graduated high school, and heads off to the University of Cincinnati here in a couple of months, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Want to take a picture?
Three, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, Bryce, I didn't give you your plaque. All right, we have another Civilian Support Award for Barbara Barksdale that she did not know she was receiving tonight. I tricked her into coming. But Barbara has made it her life's work to seek, restore, and preserve the local rich history of our ancestors who lived with our township and within our township in the Steelton area. Miss Barbara, as she is known to those who know her, began restoration efforts on the historic Midland Cemetery over 20 years ago. Miss Barbara found that this cemetery is home to slaves that lived in this area, as well as residents that have served our country in the United States colored troops during the Civil War, Buffalo Soldiers, and those that served during World War I and World War II. In addition to our ancestors that served in the military, Midland Cemetery is also the final resting place to those who shaped our community, such as the founders of the hygienic school and the leaders of local churches that are still in existence today. At the time Barbara began her efforts, Midland Cemetery was showing signs of neglect as the nearby wooded area began to overtake the cemetery. Barbara, with her family, single-handedly began an effort to restore and preserve the cemetery. Over the course of the last 20 years, Barbara turned this passion into a community affair, creating the Friends of Midland Cemetery. Most recently, Miss Barbara and the Friends of Midland Cemetery got Midland Cemetery added to the National Register of Historic Places. Through the restoration of the cemetery, Barbara is able to show her greatest strength, that is uniting a community regardless of race, religion, or other attributes. Barbara has raised her children, one of which is a police officer in Maryland and now serves as a role model in our community for others to emulate. Barbara has extended her family beyond her own blood, and it is not uncommon to hear her refer to our officers as her sons and daughters, and we're proud to be that. Barbara Barksdale has partnered with the Swatara Township Police Department for many years. This partnership has assisted our department with further engaging members of our community, as well as preserving history within the township. Barbara, we want to thank you for all you do for this community and for allowing us to be one of your many partners. For all you have done to make our township a better place to live and our community members and assisting us with a community engagement, we want to honor you with our Civilian Support Award.
I'll show the picture because I want to hug too. I'll come help.
One, two, and three. Thank you.
We're going to convene a hearing at this time. I'm going to defer to Solicitor Hall for comments regarding the hearing for rezoning of 3501 Paxton Street.
Thank you, Madam President. Now is the time and place for a rezoning hearing for 3501 Paxton Street. Just a couple of ground rules for the public's benefit tonight. What's going to happen is I'm going to mark and enter into the record a number of exhibits. They're going to be township exhibits. We have the applicant, I believe here, representatives here tonight to present evidence as part of the hearing. The Board of Commissioners will be permitted to ask them any pertinent questions as it pertains to the applicant. And then following the presentation and Board of Commissioners questions, the public will have an opportunity for public comment. I reiterate that it is public comment, is not a public question and answer session. So with that, first thing I'm going to introduce is the application as Township Exhibit 1 under cover of March 23rd, 2023. The second thing is Township Exhibit 2 will be the notice of publication in the Patriot News. Third thing that I'm going to mark as Township Exhibit 3 is the proposed zoning change map that I think the Board of Commissioners all have a copy of. And then the fourth thing is going to be Exhibit 4A, B, C, D, and E, which are photographs indicating that the property was in fact posted. With that, if a representative from the applicant wants to come forward to the podium, introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Ash McCombie. I'm an attorney with McNeese, Wallace & Merrick,
Good evening.
100 Pine Street, Harrisburg. With me this evening are Karen Watzik, Vice President of Development with St. John Properties, Sean Gordon, Executive VP of Leasing and Acquisitions. We have Greg Rogowski from Pannoni, the civil engineer, and Jared Neal with TPD. At various times, we presented to the township a mixed-use concept plan for redevelopment of the Harrisburg Mall. It consists of restaurants, retail, multi-use business, and office buildings. SJP St. John's Properties is prepared to move forward with land development plans this year, so the construction may begin as early as late 2024 or maybe early 2025. In support of that plan, we submitted a request for a zoning amendment to rezone the mall property from CG to the ML district, and that is the request that's before you all this evening. Tonight, we'll provide a short overview of the plans and zoning amendment, answer any questions that you have, and then request that you adopt the zoning amendment as proposed. I think all of our exhibits here up on the PDF are pulled from the application. Do you want to mark this as a separate exhibit though, since they're all together?
I originally marked it as Township 1. I don't think it needs to be marked separately though.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the entire application is here. So.
Excellent. Then we'll just go through the slides. Robert, could you go to slide 2, please? To the aerial. Yes, that's it. I think they're asking if you could zoom in just a little bit. Yeah, sure. Works. That's fine. Yep. Sure. So when looking at the map, while Robert's zooming in here, I'll point a little bit. We've got Paxton Street to the north, 441 here to the south, Mall Road off to the west, and Harrisburg Mall there in the middle. Is that me? The area around the mall in between routes 581 and 441 is commercial and light industrial in nature. To the south, we've got 441 of, well, I think that's fine like that. I think everyone can see it and is familiar with the mall property. But we've got 441 in the wooded area to the south, and then apartments down here that are over 500 feet away. To the west, we have the county prison and commercial uses. To the north, as I said, we've got Paxton Street Paxton Street car dealerships and some retail space. And then over to the east, over here, we've got commercial, which is sheets, restaurants, offices, hotels, and dealerships. You go to the next page, which should be the zoning map. So right now, the property is located in the CG district. It's this blackout one here. It has the ML district on 3 sides of it, and as you can see, it's essentially a peninsula sticking into the ML as it crosses over 441.
Mr. McCombs, if you just one second.
Sure.
Brendan, question Commissioner Ellis asked is there a mechanism to place the video facing the screen so that way the public viewing this?
We'll have to see what the quality of the audio is, but I can certainly flip it that way.
Okay.
Try our best to.
Thank you.
Everything's got to be on Facebook these days, so.
Understood.
Closer to you, that way
Sure.
the audio will be picked up. Try that.
All right. Hoping everyone online can hear me. As you can see, the area kind of circled in black there is a peninsula. It is the Harrisburg Mall property extending into the ML district. And so the rezoning is consistent with the adjoining zoning districts. We're essentially just extending it into the existing property. Robert, could you go to the existing features plan, please? Thank you. So again, we've got Paxton Street to the north generally, Mall Drive to the west, and Harrisburg 441 down to the south. One parcel, approximately 60 acres, several existing access points. There are 3 along Paxton, 2 over here along Mall, 1 to the south, and then coming off the road here as well off Friendship Road. The mall building itself is approximately 968,140 square feet total. The Bass Pro Shops that is off to the right here, you can see its section, is proposed to remain as part of this project, as is the former Toys R Us store off to the left here. That's about 54,750 square feet. That property is being marketed and will be subdivided throughout the process. The other building currently on the property is the Applebee's up there to the top. It's about 6,000 square feet. We're staying flexible with that one for now. The month-to-month lease, and the current plan though is to retain the building. And then we also have parking spaces over here that are leased by Dauphin County Prison. And so that's a little bit of the background and kind of how we got to where we are. Karen's going to come up, kind of walk you through the redevelopment concept plan. Then we're going to have Sean touch on some of the product types, and then I'll circle back to conclude with the rezoning, and that'll be our presentation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
If you want the pointer, you got one.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Karen Watzik. I'm Vice President of Development with the St. John Properties. I've been part of the company for 10 years, and we're excited to be here in Swatara and to present a plan for the redevelopment of Harrisburg Mall. So tonight, Robert, can you go to I think the next slide has the plan on it. And I also have a board if I can also, refer to it up here, but basically we believe we've developed an economically resilient plan that captures a really wide range of opportunity for this site. The opportunities we see are going to be retail, office, light industrial, and other amenity uses like gyms, daycares, recreation uses, things like that go into our multi-use business buildings. The redevelopment plan that we're presenting tonight is going to generate approximately $1 million in new property taxes for Swatara and approximately 1,000 new jobs. To kind of go over the aspects of the plan, various aspects, I'll start with access first. Access is we're going to maintain all the access points along Paxton, and including obviously incorporating the plan so it adopts the new interchange configuration. We intend to maintain the access points along Mall Road, 441 and Friendship Road as well. So essentially the existing access points to be maintained. We intend to retain 3 buildings. We would retain the Bass Pro building and demolish the rest of the existing mall. We would also maintain what was the prior Toys R Us building. That would probably be subdivided for a user building. It's a very unique building, so it would probably be suited for a user building. And we would also planning on retaining the Applebee's restaurant pad site. The new uses that would be incorporated into the site, we're contemplating convenience store, quick serve restaurant, several inline. Let me point to these features now. So we're talking about convenience store, quick serve restaurant, and then this is the Applebee's. And then these are several inline retail buildings. We envision those to be, again, amenity and community service type retail. And then we also have, and we're going to get into a lot more detail on these buildings, but these buildings would be multi-use business buildings. And they are buildings that we'll go into detail about, but they offer a lot of flexibility for a wide range of tenancy and multi-tenant. They're multi-tenanted in nature. We've also incorporated a single-story office building into the plan here. And just by the nature that it's single-story, it offers the flexibility to be demised so that, tenants could have direct entry into their space as opposed to like a building where you have to enter through a lobby. That's conducive, we think, to possible medical users that want direct entry into their space. The plan in general, obviously with the redevelopment plan, the mall is mostly impervious now. So the plan will, reduce the overall imperviousness of the site. It will, clearly comply with stormwater management requirements. One of the things we take pride in when we do our developments is to make sure that we incorporate plenty of opportunities for amenity space. Enhanced landscaping is very important to us. We'll look for opportunities for gazebos and pedestrian connectivity is very important, as well as patio seating in the retail buildings have opportunities for that. We want to create an environment and a space, and obviously a Class A opportunity. All of these buildings will be built, with high quality and durable materials, brick, ephes, stone, those types of materials. You're not going to find metal buildings or wood or anything like that. I guess what I want to say is what sets us apart is that we own our assets for the long term. Therefore, we have we don't build something and then sell it. So we have an incentive essentially to pay attention to the details because we're going to own it, we're going to maintain it, and for a long time. So we're going to have to lease it. So we want to create an attractive environment for our clients. We have in-house landscape architects who we hire. They're part of our staff, and they provide design and oversight to make sure that all our plans meet standards that are high standards. As I mentioned, high quality materials that stand the test of time. We have in-house property management, and that ensures our parks are maintained to the highest level, really in the industry. And we really just do pay attention to the pedestrian and the client experience within our parks of this nature. And then ultimately we become, we are members of the community. So that's kind of what sets us apart. We're excited to be here. We're excited to, implement this plan. And we think it's going to be, benefit economically and just improve the entire area. I think the next slide is we're going to go into a little bit more detail about so I mentioned the multi-use business buildings in the middle of the site, and Sean Dordan is here to kind of go into a little bit more detail about how those buildings function and why they're unique and why they fit into this site.
You're going to transition to leasing. I think you took my role as far as trying to sell the. Are we going to do background on the company, or are we passing that piece of it? Okay. Robert, my apologies. I don't know what slide it is.
It was actually the first slide.
Yeah, apologies. I feel like we almost went out of sequence there. But if I can just take a moment to give maybe a little bit of, is there a way to maybe go to view so you can, there we go. Maybe full screen mode, Robert, almost all the way to the bottom there, third room. Let's go there. There we go. Okay. Just as my name is Sean Dordan. I'm with St. John Properties. I've had the privilege of being at the company for 18 years, playing different capacities within the organization. I would like to highlight a couple other folks here. As far as Emily Pape works with Karen on the development side. Bill Holzman handles all of our retail in-house. And then it was kind of a segue to lead up to this gentleman here, Brian Cyphers. We had mentioned when we were at Planning Commission, as far as when we invest in a community, how we've done it thus far is a little bit unique. We bought a mall. The mall was functional until the world shifted. And so I don't want to say, we were not as immersed as we typically are in a community from a service perspective, a multitude of different elements that come with it. Now with the proposed environment to which we hope to create, we've hired Brian Cyphers and included in him what we call our partner in training program, which is a rotation throughout every facet of what we do. And what Karen did a great job of mentioning is we provide a full vertical element of the development life cycle. So oftentimes we go buy land, we'll go through an entitlement process. We have a construction arm that builds the buildings. We have an in-house interior construction department that will build all the improvements because, as Karen mentioned, with these buildings, we're speculative builders. So we will create the environment with the confidence that we now have that the tenant base will come, which I'll further speak to. We have an in-house property management team, in-house maintenance team. Most importantly, we don't sell. We've been in business 50 years. 2018, our trade association, every every business has a trade association. NAIOP is our trade association. In 2018, we won the Developer of the Year, which is not just who can build the most product. It's who engages in the community, what's the quality of product, is there sustainability efforts, all types of other elements there. So we are not what we call a merchant builder, where we come in, we build a building, and we leave. That is not who we are, evidenced by the fact of this is the team. Brian is going to be immersed in this community for years to come. As far as regionality, you can see we are in 11 states. The reality is our office is in Baltimore, so we're an hour away. As far as I mentioned some of the other elements as far as what we do there, and we have about 2,500 tenants within our portfolio. So if we'll go next now, Karen, get me back on script. I'm going to go back and speak to the kind of the elements of the building. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So a little bit hard to read here, but let me just kind of speak to some of the facets here. These multi-use buildings, and the plan that we have proposed is what I'd like to say our bread and butter business park. It's a little bit of office, a little bit of service-oriented retail, and a little bit of this product here, which is the unique multi-use business that may need a little bit more clarification than everybody kind of knows what a single-story office, kind of knows what an inline retail building is. This, let me take a moment to kind of demystify if there is any questions about what this product is. Let me start by saying what it's not. It's not a big industrial building that's 30-foot clear, et cetera. That's not what we do. This here would be 18-foot clear. The construction is called, it's brick on block construction. So you can see if I can navigate, I might just push it, there we go. So you can see here, brick facade, tremendous amount of glass line, roof screens. What we do here is you can see this actually is greenery, year-round green. We do underground irrigation system, so there's year-round green. In the rear here, you can see this is the kind of the loading component here. And this could either have grade level drive-in, it could have a dock if that's necessary. It would also have the ability that if this becomes 100% office or tech or lab or whatever it may be, these doors are easily converted to glass to allow a tremendous amount of flexibility. Parking-wise, we get to about 4 per 1,000 from a parking ratio, and the depth of these buildings are only a maximum 100 foot deep. So we don't, as much as somebody in the kind of the freight forwarding business say, hey, I want to be here, our price point to build these buildings, coupled with the functionality of them, doesn't typically lend well to that type of use. And I think the next is I'm going to speak to maybe some of the what we do see in these type of buildings. Or actually, I didn't realize we have some precedent images here. As I mentioned, this would give you a sense of here, if I can. Right here is that kind of what we shared kind of loading component there, right in between there. That's what that looks like. We do screen walls so you don't see in there. We have our property management department is there on a daily basis to make sure the people are operating in a capacity that is compliant with the lease obligations, et cetera. You can see here tremendous amount of glass, as I mentioned. That's the screen wall, which I mentioned as well. So I think that gives you a little bit of a sense of what those buildings look like. Next, if you will. Okay, Karen, as I say, Karen, go to leasing, kind of hit the highlights here as far as there is tremendous functionality and flexibility as far as the types of what we call users or tenants that we could accommodate in these type of buildings. As I mentioned, we build a speculative building, and then based upon the uses that would present, we have the ability to what we call demise or separate, and then build out whatever it is that client may need. And that some of the what kind of Karen mentioned here, maybe it's general office, maybe it's medical, maybe there's some retail, maybe there's some wholesale, churches, schools, daycares, light industrial. We have all of this throughout our 23 million square foot portfolio. We've kind of found a way to keep the bones of how we started in 1971, but perfect the building and evolve with kind of what our tenant demands are. I think, Karen, was that the? Yeah, no. So, okay. Thank you. Single story office. Yeah, so I think Karen did mention, could we go back just to we'll call it the concept plan? Okay, as Karen mentioned here, this kind of the frontage, what we typically do is we want some, the retail typically likes the visibility. So we've got retail up front. This is a very efficient layout as far as the flex buildings, the yellow here, some flex buildings. This is the building here that was mentioned as far as office. The world of office, just as malls, has totally evolved. So this is not a location where I'd come and say, hey, we would strongly suggest that we build a multi-story kind of Class A office building. Probably not what the market wants right now. However, I think we have enough confidence to know here that this little, what do we have, a little 30,000 square foot with 13. Yeah, so it's a small little single-story office, brick, tremendous amount of glass, good parking ratios. I can't guarantee it would be medical. Those folks tend to migrate to that type of use because of that 24/7 access control, ease of parking. You have mobility issues. There's no stairwells. There's no, kind of those barriers that for access. That it? Okay, great.
So I think that pretty much covers it and gives you a good idea of what the concept is for the mall property. Again, we're asking to rezone a portion, rezone all of the mall property from the CG to the ML district, as you can see up on the screen there. We believe it's consistent with township and county planning because all you're doing is pulling it in from the two sides and it's consistent with the comprehensive plans. With that, we're happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Thank you. Does anyone from the Board of Commissioners have any questions at this time?
I do, if no one else does.
Commissioner Ellis?
My first question would probably be a combination between you, Solicitor Hall, and you, Robert. I believe we talked about this before. Was this area ML previously and switched to CG?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's been this way since at least 2010.
Okay. I thought we talked about something for whenever the mall was built. That's possibly why it was changed. Is that okay? So, had we not changed the zoning from CG to include, we took away warehousing as a conditional use. Had we not done that, would this project have been able to go in pending the outcome of a conditional use hearing?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Yes, but not today. But once it's changed to ML, it could become aware. That is one of the permitted uses in the ML district.
But before we made the change, when we made it about a year ago, something along those lines. So this could have been a project at that time. Okay. That's what I thought. So I don't necessarily see any issues with this project in itself, but my concerns are for the future. I know you guys have spoken to, you generally maintain your property and, you build something and you continue to own it. But anything can happen. So I wanted to know, are there any protections included in the ordinance for future development? Because I know, as you guys said, you don't use metal buildings or anything like that. But if someone were to buy this property in the future, is that potentially what we could see there? Because since warehousing would be by right at that point, is that?
So I'll just answer that question generally. By rezoning this property to the ML district, the owner of the property, regardless of who it is going forward, would have all of the rights that any property owner would have in the ML district.
So can we provide some examples for the public? What other, like, as far as warehousing goes, is UPS or something along those lines? Are those in ML districts, or is that something that we could potentially see here with like a truck terminal essentially?
I can't tell from the map looking at this far, Robert, if UPS is in an ML or not.
No, it's not.
Okay, and then I see, so that's MG along Grayson. I'm just trying to get an understanding for, again, in the case of future development, what could we potentially see at this property?
I can respond to that if you'd
Okay,
like.
sure, yeah.
So a few weeks ago, I did send, I wrote a memo and sent it to the Board of Commissioners to give you an idea, and I made a comparison of what property uses or land uses are permitted in the limited manufacturing district that are not currently permitted there in the general commercial district today. Some of them are by special exception, which means it would still have to pass muster by hearing with the zoning hearing board. And I'll maybe skip over those, but some probably would not be practical anyway, like an airport or a motor vehicle racetrack or some of those other things. But the things that could happen if or likely, let's say, could happen if the zoning is changed to limited manufacturing, that would be, first of all, assembly or finishing of different kinds of products sourced from other places. So some kind of light assembly work. There are a number of industrial uses that could be permitted, the manufacture of other types of products, everything except an asphalt plant, which is probably a good thing. You could have a package delivery services distribution center. You could have warehousing or storage as a principal use. You could have parking lot or a structure that primarily serves tractor trailer trucks or trailers. So those other, some of the uses that would have to be approved by special exception would be a betting use like a casino, a recreational vehicle campground, an outdoor firearms target range, and bulk processing of some other types of industrial products. So those are the kind, and intense raising of livestock or poultry. So some of them are not likely given the size of the property. So on the opposite side, one of the things that is currently permitted in the general commercial that would not be permitted in the limited manufacturing or pretty much any type of residential use. So today, someone could build an apartment or a hotel or some other uses on that property under the general commercial. All that goes away once it becomes a limited manufacturing. And that, there again, that's the difference in zoning theory, that this is a more intense use, more towards industrial, but not heavy industrial. We have a different district for that. So that's just the highlight of some of the differences.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer, Robert. Let me see what else I have. I heard you say that you were building on spec, so I'm assuming that means you don't have any tenants lined up at this point.
Correct.
Okay. And the last question that I jotted down during your presentation was in regards to the current situation, well, the situation of the buildings that you're proposing and their distance to the residential areas around. Does anyone have that information of what the setbacks are, the distance between the homes that are already existing and these new proposed buildings?
The nearest residential is over 500 feet away. I think it's on that aerial image.
Okay. This is going to be like a hypothetical question, and you might not follow me, so I'm going to try to.
What? The way I'm going there? That one.
Okay, that white line, is that what that?
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
Right, there's the apartment complex there on
Right.
City Park Drive.
And there's, to the other, there's Chestnut Point as well, that's very close to
To the
this.
south.
Yeah, yeah. So with the setbacks that were listed with the conditional use for warehousing as as a principal use that we had in place previously, what do you remember what those setbacks were? Like, would this fit within that? Is the distance far enough, or do you understand what I'm trying to ask? I'm all over the place.
Yes, it would be possible for a smaller warehouse structure on this. it's not big enough for like a mega warehouse or?
Not necessarily that aspect, but I know before there was a concern with how close a warehouse was to residential. What was that distance that, I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I didn't bring
I don't
my
recall.
trusty rusty code book with me. So,
Um,
did you have an answer, Commissioner Tuckey?
Are you speaking of like 322 project that was originally planned? Or?
Yes, just in
I
general.
believe it was 90 foot or whatever the board decided. I believe was the correct answer, 50 to 90.
150, is it not?
150 feet.
I think so.
Okay. Do you?
I'm not 100% sure.
Right. And like I said, I usually try to bring that book to look stuff, but I did not bring it this time. Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner, just circling back on two of your questions, I think on that last one, right, we've got residential 500 feet away, regardless of the setbacks. You're on the other side of 441, you've got wooded areas before you ever get to the residential uses. So there's a significant difference, even with the current setbacks, but the use is going to be quite different than what a warehouse that you're thinking of.
I do have you jogged my memory for another question. What is the anticipated truck traffic for what you have proposed currently? Obviously, I understand that you don't have tenants in mind, but a lot of the roads surrounding this go right into residential neighborhoods and things like that. So do you have any idea at this time of what that impact would be on individuals that live in this area?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some truck traffic like there is with the current Harrisburg Mall, right? Whenever deliveries are being made, there's trucks coming in and dropping it off. But until the actual users are known, it's hard to say. Those multi-use business facilities could be a preschool, or they could be, some sort of development location. And so until they have that information, I think it's difficult to say what the traffic would actually be. And we can, dig into that probably deeper during land development, but I would expect that, any significant truck traffic is going to be coming off the interchange.
Okay, and obviously we're in the process of having that redone too, so who knows what any of this will look like by the time that's done.
And I do think it's, just to reiterate there, the price point, the cost of construction to build this type of product then translate to a rental rate, a higher rental rate. That coupled with the fact that as a long-term holder, if we do what's called do a deal to fill a box, that is going to totally offend the balance of the kind of the ecosystems we've created. It serves us no good. So it's hard to maybe trust the fact that we self-police, but we self-police for our own good as a long-term holder to create the value of sustainability.
And again, I'm not saying that you don't or anything like that, and just, hypotheticals, because anything can happen, and, just trying to cover all bases. So I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from members of the board? Okay, with that, thank you. Anything else from the applicant at this time? Okay. With that, we will open it up to public comment. I'm going to ask that everyone try to limit their public comment to 3 minutes. And again, I stress that it's public comment and not public question and answer session. So anyone from the public would like to comment? Okay, if you could state your name and.
Well, good evening. My name is Charlie Sir. I'm an attorney with Stevens & Lee out of Harrisburg. I'm here representing Smith Land and Improvement Corporation, which of course you're probably very well aware owns about the 165 acres of undeveloped land along 322 between Penhar, Mushroom Hill, and Chambers Hill Road. Certainly, the mall property needs to be redeveloped. There's no question about that. It needs to go through that. And certainly that the narrative in the presentation here really shows a very nice project that could come through onto here. They certainly describe well the conditions for redevelopment and what could go in there. And again, it's a very nice presentation. However, we believe that the redevelopment of the mall can take place under the current zoning. that's in place right now, which is CG. And of course, the report that I was looking at beforehand certainly acknowledges that the majority of the uses that they're anticipating here are currently permitted uses within the CG district, whether it be retail, restaurant, office, daycare, school, medical, church. Those are all permitted right now going through on there. So there's really no need to do a rezoning of the property into an industrial district to allow a proper redevelopment of the site, even with what they're showing right now. Now, what is interesting, and the commissioner, I think you really pointed into the end, you're not approving a land development plan right now. You're not approving that, even though it's interesting to know about setbacks and traffic and whatnot. You're approving a rezoning that could come in here. What uses could go in? And the big thing that's changing here is clearly warehousing that's coming in here. And of course, it's very interesting that the board last March, as you very well, probably in response to the project I was involved with, did a rezoning, a text amendment to remove warehousing from the CG district. Of course, there's an appeal filed from that, and we're currently in court over that. And I believe this applicant has filed a certain appeal also, but it's pending right now for resolution right now. And it just seems very odd that the board would have revoked warehousing, removed it from the CG district. And there's really three large tracts which that would affect. My client's property, the mall, and I believe there's one by Union Deposit. And warehousing was taken out of there. But yet the first thing that comes through now is a proposal which puts it right back in. As of right, it comes in right now. Now, they may have very good development plans. I don't know them as a developer. And I think they have intentions to go forward with what they have, but you don't know that. The property could be flipped. We could put a warehouse on there, and that's that. That's what you have on there. And it seems to me that the township is picking winners and losers. Who gets the warehouses and who doesn't? Clearly, Smith Land and Improvement is one of the losers in that conversation. Now, let's look at the light industrial.
Sir, if you could try to wrap up your comments.
Certainly will. Certainly will. Some of the other questions that came out had to do with the various points that the zoning officer talked about of the various uses that could be permitted on the property with light manufacturing. And I think if you look through that use, I think most of those uses are highly irregular that they're going to come through here, manufacturer of plastics, various metal components. That's just not happening anymore. People aren't doing light manufacturing like that. What's the obvious use that's going in there? I really think that it's warehousing is going in there. And the fact that the township would consider allowing warehousing a property where they just took it away, where there's two other properties which really didn't have it, really doesn't seem fair to us. That's happening here. If you really want to allow warehousing in there, you keep it the way it was before, conditional use, make it a conditional use here, which they had the ability to do beforehand. And if they're coming through with warehousing, make it fair that they would do a conditional use process and they could move forward with the warehousing that comes in here. Because again, remember, you're not approving a land development plan. You're not approving any particular pictures here. There can be no contractual arrangements or quid pro quo that's happening here. Again, this is the way you do rezonings. You show the pictures that could happen. But again, as the commissioner pointed out, anything else could happen in there that's permitted with that district. And the big thing that's really left out of the narrative and the thing that's sitting in the back door is warehousing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would remind the commissioners that there is pending litigation. Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Lisa Knight. I live at 6140 Hartford Drive. To back up what he was saying, I mean, if their current plan of what was described today fits into the current zoning, I really don't see a need to change the zoning. It doesn't make sense. My only concern is that when they had first approached the boards about changing the zoning, it looked more like a warehouse situation and they had no idea what was going in. A big difference between this piece of land and your Smith Land development piece of land is that this piece of land does not back up to residential. That Smith Land and development for the big warehousing they wanted backs right up to a residential district and properties. So that's might be something to consider, that if what they described today does not need the ML zoning, that maybe it gets denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Tom Connolly, 345 North Harrisburg Street. I'd like to say since 1971, when the mall was built, I've never lived more than 2 miles from that location. I live on Harrisburg Street now, and the mall is struggling. It needs something. I don't know what it needs. Not getting into a warehouse situation at all here. But I will say that I feel like the closest residential property, I don't know if you were talking about to the proposed development or the proposed property line, would be Park Run Apartments, which is directly across the street from the Pizza Hut. So from the property line, you don't have much distance at all. You have 112 units there. But on a positive note, I think as part of the 83 project, Mall Road and Park Run is scheduled, I don't know, somebody may know more about this than me if it changed, is scheduled to be a 4-way light to help them out of there. Right now, it's a 3-way on Paxton Street, and then you come out of Mall Road, then you have that offset to the apartment complex, and they have to fend for themselves to get out. But that supposedly is one of the things that PennDOT is going to do on that stretch to make life easier, whether it was a mall or anything else. But I will say this. I've had the opportunity to work with St. John's on different things, and they've been good long-term tenants. As a person that lives there, I like what they're proposing. Nobody can predict the future and what's going to come there. I think when people built the mall, they thought it would last forever. Retail has changed. You have a lot of residential people that use the streets around the mall to get into the tri-community area and then into the city. But I'll leave with this. I remember when the mall was crowded. I remember when the 5,000 parking spots were filled. I remember when every store was filled, and you had to have truck traffic in and out of there to refill the store. It was a busy hub of activity. And the one thing that on that note is I saw $1 million for the township in taxable revenue. I hope that's true, but I'm afraid that was $1 million total property tax, because if it's $1 million in revenue to the township, that's absolutely huge. If it's $1 million total, helps the school district, helps the county. The township gets 12.8%, so it'd be $128,000, which is still a nice sizable thing. So that's a question that I'd like the board to ask them, because I know I'm not supposed to ask them direct questions, but is the township really going to get $1 million in property tax revenue from that project, or is it a total of $1 million between the 3 entities? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Anything else from the applicant at this time?
Real quick response.
Sure.
Just the clarification on the change back to the CG district and the idea that it's not needed. There are several uses in the proposed zoning district that are not permitted currently. Fabrication, manufacturing, assembly, they all go to those multi-business uses that we were talking about. So, the idea that this is some idea to sneak in a warehouse is absolutely absurd. St. John Property has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to this point. They've got the engineering done. They're ready to move into subdivision and land development to move that process forward. And so what you saw there is absolutely what they are proposing and what they intend to go forward with. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else from the Board of Commissioners? Okay, with that, we will close the hearing.
Hearing is closed. Moving on to item number 7 on our agenda, consideration of ordinance, rezoning of 3501 Paxton Street, Solicitor Hall.
Thank you, Madam President. Following the hearing, what you have in front of you is an ordinance that would accomplish what was just requested by the applicant in the hearing. So you have the opportunity to vote on that tonight if you should choose.
Okay, is there a motion to bring this up for consideration?
I'll make it a motion.
Commissioner Varner, is there a second? Commissioner Tucky? Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Just as a point of discussion or request of the board, I'd like to entertain the idea of potentially staying this until next month, just so that can look into this just a little bit further to get some more information, because something that was requested from a resident, and then I mentioned previously when we did the CG text amendment, was potentially adding back more provisions to the conditional use. I think if we were to go that route, then we could accommodate your project, and then be a little more targeted and make sure that any future projects are beneficial to the residents as well as the township to put in more protection. So I still think that that is the way that we should be moving forward. So that would be my request to the board, is that, again, I know that was said that that was going to be looked at, and to my knowledge, nothing has come of that. And that was, about a year ago at this point. But I do think that is something that is a more fair application for the current zoning that we have, where we really sit down and look and say, these are the things that we're trying to make sure are able to be so that we can accommodate development, because we do need development within the township to make sure that we're not having to raise taxes. But we also want to make sure that we have protections in place for the residents so that they don't have a big warehouse in their backyard that's really close to their home or something along those lines. So that, I feel like that is the most fair way to move forward. I said that before, and I still feel that way. So I don't know if that's something that the board would entertain. I can make it a motion that we table this until next month, just to see if that's something that we could accommodate to make this a fair process.
She made a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Commissioner Bowder seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion to table? Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowder?
Yes.
President Zubek?
No.
Commissioner Tucky?
May I ask something?
We're taking a vote, Commissioner. The motion is to table.
I just had a few questions, that's why I was asking.
We'll be back on the subject at hand in a few minutes, but the motion right now is to table.
No,
That was no to table.
correct.
Commissioner Varner?
No.
That is 3 no, 2 yes.
The motion fails. Back on the consideration of ordinance. Is there any other discussion?
I respectfully ask that
Commissioner-
we, sorry,
Commissioner Tucky?
Madam President, I respectfully ask that we take a few minutes in the back room to discuss for a few minutes.
Okay, we'll go into executive session as requested. We're going to enter into executive session.
Oh, not well, he's not on vacation. He's on vacation now. Like, yeah.